What's up, party people? My name is Sunny Ray. This is the Sunny Ray Show. This will be the last interview for the week, and I'm not gonna lie, I've been low key kind of like obsessed over this next guest for the last few weeks since we first met. I've been looking forward to this interview. Oh my goodness, is it ever insane? I'm gonna be interviewing a guy named Kevin. His name is Kevin Damoa. Kevin is the founder and CEO of Glid Technologies, maybe one of the coolest companies I've come across this year for sure. It's a veteran-owned deep tech company building what it calls the operating layer between road, rail, yard, port, and contested logistics. Before I read the rest of it, this guy used to work at SpaceX. Kevin, what's up, man? How are you?
Sonny, I'm doing amazing, brother. Thank you so much for having me. I'm blessed.
Yes. I'm so pumped. So, one of my first questions I like to kick off with is what are you building? And maybe as you're answering that question, I'm going to play a little background reel here. So, do you want to tell us what you're building?
Absolutely. We are building the world's first autonomous road to rail solution. We are the infrastructure layer that bridges the two modalities together, road as well as rail. We service the commercial market, ports, railroads, industrial parks, agriculture, pre and post. And then we are a dual use company as well. So we service the warfighter wherever the warfighter goes in garrison and theater as well. And in our products, we have hardware meets software in the dance to really bring logistics to current times. We've been on a wild ride to get here, and we're so grateful with what the Lord has blessed us with. So welcome to Glide.
Wow, dude. Wow. I'm sorry. I'm just going to let this video play out. Oh, is that Tim Draper?
It is. Yeah. So he's one of our, our investors in our company as well. We won TechCrunch's Road Battlefield. So you saw some of that in it as well. We won that last year. We were the first hardware company to ever win that competition. Old, winners were Cloudflare, Dropbox, Mint. We're in great company in that. So, it's been cool.
Good for you, man. That's congratulations on all your success thus far. Let's maybe slow it down a little bit. So, you said that you spent 23 years in the business of getting things from A to B. So what was the first project where moving like heavy things stopped being a job and became the problem that you wanted to solve?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was first exposed to the problem at the age of 17, right, in the Army, and right after 9/11, doing railhead operations. And at that time, I didn't know really what I was getting into. I just knew that that stuff was hard but exciting. I think what the job that I worked in that I knew that this was going to be my career path was probably at SpaceX. SpaceX showed me what logistics really means. I mean, SpaceX is a logistics company. They take satellites and they transport them directly to space. They're a bus. So it really expanded my mind. So being a logistician for as long as I was at that time, I thought that we only had four modes of transportation: road, rail, ocean, and air. I didn't consider space. And then once you go to space and you come back down, you see that everything plays into it. So I ran a lot of the logistical operations there and utilized every single mode in order to get our flight modules to the point of transportation and then launch and then recovery. And that's when I really fell in love with it all. So, I went on the path to really dive deep into how do I be a technologically advanced logistician. So going to mobility and micro mobility and space and defense in order to formulate what we have here today, which is Glide.
So you mentioned SpaceX. So you designed how rockets physically move from factory to the pad, right? And at
Absolutely.
Northrop, you were inside the F-35 program. So what did aerospace teach you about moving mass that commercial freight still hasn't quite learned?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel it taught more rigor, right? And to evolve as the time comes about, right? So, I mean, like if you look at our logistical systems, they've been around for hundreds of years, and a lot of them, are still stuck in the past. What aerospace does is it challenges, that entire industry to be better at what it builds. And we apply that same methodology to legacy systems while still operating within, infrastructures that exist today, and not putting a toll on the American or international people around the world to foot the bill, to actually move their commerce from node to node and point to point to consume their deliveries.
Got it. Got it. And what pattern did you see in how those companies like won or lost that you're deliberately doing differently at Glid?
Yeah, glide. We say it's glide, but it's all good.
Glide. Got it. Got it.
It's a little
So how do you,
it's all
is it spelled GLIID or is it
good.
GLID?
GLID with the long I. It's a macron. It's a macron over
Got
the
it.
I. Yeah.
Got
So
it. Okay.
we say
Noted. Glide. My
we say.
bad.
I appreciate it, brother. No, but back to your question, and sorry to derail, is uh, what do we implement over what we see existing in the economy? Is that what the question was, or could you repeat the question? Sorry.
So I guess my main question was like, so you've built hardware inside SpaceX, Northrop, right? All these companies. So what pattern did you see in how those companies won or lost that you're deliberately doing differently at Glide?
Yes, yes, yes. The pattern was building based on first principles, right? I think that's where it was. And when looking at first principles and building and global optimize, is the main two things that I saw SpaceX do. Looking at the supply chain, how to vertically integrate, how to launch better, how to recover, and lower the cost to make space more accessible. Is the same exact methodology that we bring at Glide. So how do we make rail more accessible? By cutting out the touches that are associated with the transload process, which is the only way that you can get things from road to rail. That process involves multiple pieces of equipment: cranes, forklifts, drayage trucks, hostler trucks, and train carts, and then the army of people, multiple touches and a lot of capital, in order to get your container or your goods from one modality to the other. And it's broken up because everyone builds in local optima. So at Glide, we take that first principle, problem, apply a first principle solution, and then build in global optima. So looking at road and rail as a union, right? Eliminating all the touches associated with material conveyance, and then wrapping it around a business model that lowers the cost, increases transparency, while still delivering an unfair solution to our customers in the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's fascinating. How do you define the first principles truth of this problem before any existing rail or freight process gets layered on top of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, how do you move goods effectively, efficiently, utilizing the infrastructure that is there today? That's the first problem. For every good across the platform, across every industry, because everybody needs to move. When we ship products, we don't think about what the form factor is, or what is going to be going into these containers. We think about just moving a good, whether it's a piece of a pallet of toilet paper, to a rocket. You still have to utilize what exists there, and what the world gives you from a propulsion perspective, a vehicle. So that's where we start, and then we build up from that base.
That's so interesting. So you've I was going to ask you, most founders pick either software, mostly software because it scales, right? You picked
Yes.
autonomous vehicles that drive on road and then run on rail. Some of
Yeah.
the hardest hardware there is. Like, why go where almost nobody wants to go?
Yeah, I mean, because I believe the Lord provided me with the skills that are needed to facilitate that in the experiences. And the other part is no one was solving it. Everyone again was building a local optima. They're either building a next gen train, or a train cart, or a next gen bogie, or they're building a next gen truck, or a next gen forklift. and it just became more stuff. I mean, it's innovative, it's cool, and everything, but it's more implementation for a logistician. It's more complexity for a market that is still foreign to, and it needs to adjust to homologation and regulation. And it didn't take advantage of the ecosystem, the infrastructure that exists around the world today. What I saw it do was essentially introduce more complexity into the introduction into the market, so folks couldn't get that speed of solution quick enough. So I took all the skills that I had and identified a faster path to actually, make infrastructure work for what it is, by eliminating those friction points that I saw when I was 17 doing railhead operations for the Army, and the friction points that I observed throughout my past 25 years of, running logistics operations as an operator. So, yeah.
I was going to ask you about that. Just who or what kind of shaped how you think about logistics and autonomy? Like, is it a mentor, a book, or an idea that you kind of keep coming back to?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of it all. I'm a student to this game. So the box is a great book about containerization that I consistently go to. Just following minds like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos on how they approach the industry, and solving problems in really original ways, but original while being simplistic ways is another one. And then leaning on like industry veterans like my mentor Brett Lamb, who has been in logistics his whole life as well. I want to say 45 plus years in logistical processing, from software to hardware to being a broker himself. I constantly go to that pool to drink from. And then looking at freight waves and other great publications on analytics across the logistical landscape is what I pay a lot of attention to. And then going back to the military, President General Eisenhower, the greatest logistician of all of our time, and his obsession with our trade is somebody I take a lot of inspiration from as well.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So, uh, I was going to ask you. So you spent years retrofitting other people's visions, right? So what were you building right before Glide, and what was like the moment you decided to kind of build your own thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I was at Harley Davidson's e-bike company, Serial One, and I helped them with the engineering, manufacture, and distribution of their first e-bike to the world during 2020. And two things came out of that. One was, the world stopped driving, so e-bikes became the way that folks moved. So everybody and their mom were doing e-bikes. The second one was a come to Jesus moment of, Kevin, do you want to build toys for the world, or do you want to solve the problems, for the world, where these toys can be, in folks' hands much faster? One thing that I saw in shipping bikes throughout the world was the bottlenecks associated with, distribution. Our bikes sat on the ocean for months because, ports around the world couldn't get them in fast enough. So we were charged that money and customers had to wait. The other side was, we had a lot of labor shortages that were happening in tandem with what COVID-19 showed the world. And that was like my catalyst of, dude, you can solve all of this, for everybody, for Serial One, for the Harley Davidsons of the world, but at a much larger scale. And that's when I immediately left, that great company, and, went on this crazy adventure of being a founder. And that's when I founded Glide.
What's a skill or instinct from the aerospace and EV world that you still use every single day at Glide?
Yeah, I mean, it's paying attention to emerging technologies and ensuring that we are introducing tech at the speed of innovation, right? So we make sure that we don't fall behind in the technological curve of adoption. We try to stay a couple steps ahead, as well as leaning into other industry partners on educating on how their journey's going as well, to make sure that we're not integrating product that or solutions that may pull us back, or be failure points. So that those are the two things that I take with me.
Just to switch gears a little bit, right? So you're yeah, no pun intended. Your core bet is that the real failure point in logistics is the handoff between road and rail, not
Hmm.
the haul itself, right? Can you make that case? Like, why does that seem the thing everyone else is ignoring?
Yeah, I mean, I believe because it's there's two reasons, right? One is legacy systems have been around for a long time, so folks are like, it's working. So why try to change it? The transload process is very capital intensive. So to go in and say, hey, your process is actually broken, but I want you to ignore the 50+ million that you've already invested in transload facilities and forklifts and cranes and infrastructure and people, to adopt something that it will be life changing for everyone. That's the first piece. The second piece is it's not easy to do. So if you're looking at our vehicle, we have to attenuate for rail loads, right? Because those loads are much more aggressive, while satisfying requirements for the road, which are less aggressive, but the regulations are tighter on how much you can actually, ship. You have that 80,000 pound gross vehicle weight requirement that is attached to that. So having a happy balance between your technology is an obstacle, and we're doing it, but we're doing it very methodically in our implementation into the market.
Got it. Can you walk me through the moment like that the thesis actually clicked for you? Like when did the handoff go from, an annoyance to essentially the whole company?
Yeah, I mean, it was sitting down and designing the first product and writing the patent at the same time. Running these when I created Glide, Chat GPT and Claude and all that stuff didn't exist. So I couldn't go to an LLM and ask them questions if this thing was it. I had to go to the market and to my networks to say, hey, is this viable? So you know talking to customers, understanding their pain points, talking to my peers within the logistical industry, and getting a great soundboard what this concept is, and then going into CAD and applying it to the patent, was the process that it took. And it was like, whoa, there's definitely something here. And then looking at industries where this technology is, but it's hidden in the dark, and in those industries being very successful, profitable in the billions, but very silently, and really understanding why they were so successful, is where it really clicked. And then when we came out of stealth and showed it to the world, and the feedback that we started to get from folks is like, dude, why isn't this here? I mean, why wasn't this here, decades ago? I mean, I think that was the greatest, confirmation that we were on the right path, on the right track.
Oh. There's a huge autonomous trucking kind of gold rush right now, right? Like you're basically saying, the half empty rail network is the real asset hiding in plain sight.
Yep.
So why is the consensus wrong?
Uh, you know, rail. I think more folks will get on rail if it wasn't so predatory, right? I think road is really really easy because, yeah, you have to go through the homologation process, and the folks have been trying to do autonomous driving on road for forever, and every single class that it is, Waymos, and all the way up to the Tesla semi trucks. And what Enride has done has showed the easeability and feasibility of accessing road. Whereas with rail, I mean, you have all of us, and not many of us, that are still fighting that battle. Parallel systems, Intramotive, us, fighting the battle to come into a market that is very, very old, very predatory, and it's hard to break through those lines. It's very unionized, so it's unattractive to new incumbents. But if you zoom out into the benefits, I mean, now you're looking at United States, utilizing the latent capacity that it has, all over the world. I mean, all over the United States in short lines, and then zooming out to the rest of the world where you can take underdeveloped countries and continents and really bring them into a developed state by just them accessing their railroad for what they built it for. I take, for example, Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya. That bridge there, as soon as you unlock rail for those folks become a great power in the world because they're able to get their goods to them faster, and as well as build and manufacture more effectively because their cost of product has been reduced, substantially. Currently, is bound because they're paying a bunch of money in logistics. So it's like, why do I want to build so much if my product costs a ton? Because I have like 40% tied into my landed costs to get the goods here. So that's holding folks back. So with our solution, we're actually bringing those continents to a developed state, and that's something that we're really excited about.
Yeah, cool. Cool. So the gliders are the body, and then you have Ezra 1.6 is the
Yes.
brain. How much of
Yes.
the hard problem is the robotics versus the orchestration intelligence kind of deciding what moves where and when?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that the hardware now, believe it or not, is the easy side of it all because what has been done in the world thus far, right? What has been demonstrated by autonomous partners and heavy hauling across the industry for a very, very long time. And, the implementation of drive by wire is done everywhere now. Our cars are all drive by wire. So it makes, the autonomy side, the hardware side, very, very easy. The tough side is that software integration, that AI orchestration tool that pairs that static infrastructure, roads and rails, with all of the dynamic nodes, and sequences it in a way that is effective in a very, very dynamic environment. And that's the beauty of what Ezra 1.6 does as it's integrated into the Glider universe. So Raiden and Glider M become these increasingly important assets because we're able to actually pull as much capabilities out of them through Ezra 1.6 and his planning capabilities across all corridors.
Super interesting. Cool. Okay, got it. So everyone says that that AI, like AI agent now, right? Like yours is dispatching physical freight against cost, time, fuel, and risk in real time. So where does the AI still get it wrong, and like what has to be true before you trust it with like a live corridor?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, AI still gets some of the geolocation items wrong. I mean, even if you go to Google
Mm,
Maps, because it pulls from APIs from Google or historical mapping, and a
yeah.
lot of these like lines change, or some of the stuff is in rural locations. So that's something that we have to have a human go in and click in and reconfigure, all the time. The next one is um, you know the speed to transit. Sometimes it doesn't get congestion right on the road because, as you know, the congestion is a living machine. It's very dynamic. It'll tell us, hey, once you get to this checkpoint, there'll be no cars, and hey, we got a line. We have, it's prime traffic hour because of an accident or something like that. Where it gets it right is maybe the rail. But if you have a derailment, then you have another anomaly. So anomaly mitigation is something that we actively work on quite a bit, or anomaly prediction. In order to mitigate said situation is something that we work on quite a bit because of its dynamic nature.
That makes a lot of sense. That's super cool as well. Okay, so I guess one thing you told us that stuck is that you don't see this as like replacing jobs, right? You see it as like building infrastructure that's 30 to 40% more efficient. Like, why does that distinction matter so much to you, and why do most people get that wrong?
Yeah, because I mean, as soon as I believe that for one, why it matters so much to me because Glide was created in order to move the human species to the next tier, the next rung in our evolution. To take our material workers, our logisticians, and move them forward in their training, and to integrate physical AI as well as digital twins and next gen jobs into the curriculum so that they can upskill to the next tier, as well as provide great paying jobs and generational wealth to marginalized communities that live adjacent to ports and railroads. That's our prime thesis out to the market for the workforce development and human development side of it. Um, why it matters the most to us is, because when you introduce a technology to the world, our prime responsibility is to educate, improve, and sustain. So that's our North Star.
What's the part of full autonomy in freight that hype crowd massively underestimates?
Uh, Repeat that again. Sorry about that.
Like, what's the part of full autonomy in freight that the hype crowd massively underestimates?
Yeah,
Because it's
absolutely.
yeah.
And I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
No, that was it. So, like, what part of it, do you think that people underestimate?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe it's the implementation process. I mean, I think when they look at what the Waymos and the Zooks and are doing, it's they think that it can be translated over to freight. I mean, now you're looking at, so I feel the differentiation is the size and scale. You know, moving human passengers is way different from moving 80,000 pounds across it all. There's so many different things that can happen, from load balancing to predicting terrain characteristics, and transitional characteristics that need to take into account, as well as braking speeds and other things that could happen, that I think a lot of folks don't think about when you apply autonomy to something as cumbersome as heavy duty freight.
You're in the kind of the deployment phase of delivering dual mode road to rail systems across road, rail, yard, port, and defense. So, what does deployment actually look like on the ground right now?
Yeah, so the deployment is intentional. It's slow and tedious, and what we do is we have human in the loop for every single step of the operation. From the glider M, which has a human inside the vehicle, we have ground crews, surrounding that vehicle as well for those transitions from going from road to rail to actuating the rail gears down. And then for Raiden is completely driven by remote, as we look to capturing a lot of those characteristics when we turn on that level 4 autonomy switch, to make sure that we understand the vehicle dynamics, what it's going to do, what its tendencies are, and the failure modes that we have to predict and then engineer out. So that's what our ground deployments look like right now.
You guys lined up more than $70 million in signed LOIs before shipping commercial units. Like, how does a hardware founder sell the future that hard without, over compromise or over promising rather?
Yeah, absolutely. It's telling the honest story, right?
Mm.
And showing product fast. So everything that you're seeing right now, we essentially build in about a year and a half. So Glider and product, we have two of those. Raiden product, we have two of those. Edge 1.6, it's up in its beta form, and we're constantly bugging through it. And it was speed to market, speed to customer, as well as listening and including their pain points into the product. And it made it easy because I've been in logistics for 25 years, so they were talking to their peer when we went to go I wouldn't say pitch and sell, but to introduce this solution over to them. So it was an easy, let's say, sell for folks in this adoption process.
That's awesome to hear.
Thank you, brother.
So Glider M is deployable today.
Yep.
Raiden is the unmanned first of its kind. Like, how do you sequence a manned product that pays the bills now against the autonomous one that's which is the real vision?
Yeah, absolutely. So the manned version, the Glider M, is to show the market just how we're going to do it. Is to show the functionality and the ease of going from road to rail in a single vehicle, while still having the ability to do transload operations within that single vehicle as well, with the intention of getting folks familiar with that flywheel motion. And then at the same time, building an autonomous intended product that can service both the commercial as well as defense was very important for us. We know that we're living in a time where autonomy is the wave of the future. It's the wave of right now, across both paradigms. However, looking at regulation and homologation, a manned product is essential for really proving out the methodology that is new as well as old to industries that are very predatory, like the rail lines, to show what can be done with humans in the loop. So now you're not fighting against unions that are like, these guys are meant to take my job. No, I'm actually putting a person in the seat that is going to be there, that could be you. The second one is, folks feel safer when they see a human, doing human type things. So the Glider M proves that out. With Raiden being our next one up. So that was the thought there.
This the same platform like runs commercial freight and defense, right? Contested logistics. Like, how do you build one machine that serves a port operator and a battlefield without kind of splitting the company in two?
Yeah. I mean, it's being intentional in its design. Looking at the military standard and then pairing that with the commercial standard across FRA, the Federal Rail Administration, as well as the Department of Transportation as well, and both requirements, and marrying them up in a way where there's no compromise at its minimum level. Again, it's based on first principles, so that we don't have multiple assets or multiple SKU numbers within our inventory that we have to keep track of. It was really important for us to get it right. We saw, and from my experience, the military utilizes a lot of commercial solutions to move their goods. Within in garrison, they use different ones in theater environment, and we wanted to make sure that we met both intents. There wasn't much of a change in what the vehicles were, or could be, and we made sure that to find that happy medium between both.
And then you guys went and you guys won the TechCrunch Disrupt Battlefield. Possibly the first solo founder to do it, and you're raising in a venture world that mostly wants pure software margins, right? So can you like, what's the hardest part of raising for veteran-owned deep tech, and what have you learned about where the capital is heading?
Yeah, I mean the fundraising was a slog for us for a while. I mean, I spent a lot of time with a lot of no's, like most founders do, but even more so for a company looking to disrupt the industry that hasn't been disrupted in a very, very long time. Well, since the coming of the container, which was 75 years ago. But in order to overcome that, it was getting folks that really believed in it. So Antler and the Veterans Fund were the first two that came in. The Antler grasp onto the methodology that we were the thing. Like they saw the tea leaves of what was happening within the world. They paid attention to everything that happened with COVID-19. They paid attention to logistical analytics. And then the Veterans Fund, wanted to support a founder. I mean, a veteran founder. So they were our first two believers that really propelled us into our first prototype, which was Raiden. And then once we built that, the rest of the world really paid attention because we were able to build that product from design to the time that we roll it out at Reindustrialize in 10 weeks. A fully functional product, and 10 weeks from CAD to, driving it from California to Detroit. And then folks are like, wow, these guys can build, there is a big problem here and these guys are right. So after that, we're able to get in folks like Outlander and Draper, Bravo Victor, M1C, Deep Checks, and others, just because of the fact that we're able to build and the market really needed us. So.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's awesome. So, I live in the machine economy, right? The like autonomous systems transacting and eventually, paying each other directly.
Mhm.
A fleet, autonomous freight assets coordinating and settling moves feels like an early vision, a kind of version of that. Do
Yeah,
you see gliders as economic actors someday, not just vehicles?
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and that's our whole model, right? Our
Yeah.
whole model is mobility as a service. So we are the new FedEx, UPS, Maersk, JB Hunts of the world. We build really great products to service others, right? At a cost disparity that is lower than everything else out in the market. So we're making transportation more accessible to everybody, no matter what the mode is. And then for us as a business, we're able to capitalize on great margins because of said thing, because of said sequence.
Mhm.
The exact same way. So yes, absolutely.
Fascinating, man. This is like I said, even just I mean, the fact that you've been able to build it and uh yeah, it's just so remarkable and be able to show the world that you're all about it and what you're building. I mean, since the first day you showed it to me, I literally haven't been able to get it out of my brain, and it's
Thank you,
so
brother.
it's something else. Yeah. So help me land the plane here. Or the spaceship rather. 10 years out, if if Glide is everything you want it to be, like what did you actually build? Like not just the company, like, but like how do you change the world?
Yeah, we 10 years out, if we build exactly on the mission, if we continue on the mission that we're on, we are the next way you move across everything across the planet, and off the planet as well, as we look to be an interplanetary species. Now you're looking at gliders on the moon, gliders on Mars, gliders everywhere. You say, how do I ship it? Do I go air, ocean, space, road, rail, or do I glide it? Don't ship it, just glide it, because glide is going to be able to get it there on time every time. It's going to utilize infrastructure that is there today. uh, we're going to be able to look at how we fund infrastructure, as a society. I mean, federal governments, globally are going to be able to say my infrastructure dollars should go here. And I feel that that bet should be on rail because it's safe for everybody else, and road should be, purely for passengers. So that's where I see it.
What a compelling vision. What an amazing story. What a beautiful company you're building, dude. Like, I wish you best of luck, and I'm so touched by all of it. So it's amazing. Thank you. I see we have quite a few people listening live as well. Really appreciate all of you tuning in. Friday afternoon. And Kevin, any last words? Where do people learn more about you? Where do people learn more about Glide?
Yeah, absolutely. So Glide, you can find us at our website, glidtech.us. So GLIDTECH.us. You can find us on LinkedIn as well. My page, Kevin A. Damoa. And then we're on X, on Instagram as well. And I believe Facebook may be new, but we may have it. But, reach out to us. We love seeing you. We'll be at Fed Supernova in the coming weeks down in Austin. So if you see us or see me, I'll be speaking there on the great panel with some of our military leaders on how we support the folks and on the contested stage. But yeah, follow us and let's glide.
Let's Glide. Okay, awesome, buddy. Kevin, hang out for 1 minute. I'm going to bring this stream to an end. Thank you all for tuning in. Cheers.